All right, here we go. Economics final. Gonna start off with Unit 1. Question 1. For each bottle of wine that Italy produces, it gives up the opportunity to make 10 pounds of cheese. France can produce one bottle of wine for every 25 pounds of cheese it produces. Okay, we get it. That's the fucking question. Answer A. Italy has the comparative advantage in wine. I'm not going to read the full question for these. It takes too long. You get the hint from the first sentence or so. Question 2. Evaluate the following argument. Adam Smith's analysis is based on a fundamental flaw. He assumes that people are motivated by self-interest. Answer A. This statement is based on the misconception that following your self-interest and being selfish are the same thing. 3. The law of demand implies, holding everything else constant, that A. As the price of bagels increases, the quantity of bagels demanded will decrease. 4. Suppose that a frost in Florida reduces the size of the orange crop. Answer A. Decreases by area. B and C. Question 5. Producer surplus. E. None of the above. Question 6. Economists assume that rational people do all of the following except C. Undertake activities that benefit others and hurt themselves. 7. Specializing in the production of a good or service in which one has a comparative advantage that enables a country to do all of the following. D. Produce a combination of goods that lies outside its own production possibilities frontier. 8. Consumer surplus is equal to C. Infinity. 9. How does it differ from the consumer surplus in the markets you have studied up to this point? Unlike in most other examples, in this case, the answer is A. The highest price a consumer is willing to pay is infinite. 10. Deadweight loss is a reduction in economic surplus resulting from market not being in competitive equilibrium. In the diagram, deadweight loss is equal to the areas. Answer A. B and D. 11. In the context of game theory, what does the prisoner's dilemma demonstrate? Answer B. The conflict between individual incentives and the benefits of mutual cooperation. 12. Suppose a price floor on sparkling wine is proposed by the health minister of the country of Vineyardia, and it will be binding when imposed. What will be likely the effect on the market for sparkling wine in Vineyardia? Answer B. Quantity demanded will decrease, quantity supplied will increase, and a surplus will result. 13. A change in any of the following variables, except for C, the price of the product, will shift the market demand curve. 14. Refer to figure 4-3. What is the value of producer surplus at a price of $18? C, $240. 15. Which of the following is a microeconomic question? Answer A. What factors determine the price of electronic cigarettes? 16. The law of demand holds in the market for three goods, X, Y, and Z. An increase in price of X causes an increase of price of Y. Answer D. X and Y are substitutes. 17. The government proposes a tax on imported champagne. Buyers will bear the entire burden of the tax if C. Demand curve for imported champagnes is vertical. 18. The price of Burger King's Whopper hamburger increases. This will cause B. Demand for McDonald's Big Mac hamburgers to increase. 19. McDonald's eliminates $1 off coupons. This will cause B. Demand for McDonald's Big Mac hamburgers to shift to the left. 20. The price of fries decreases due to a potato surplus. This will B. Increase the demand for McDonald's Big Mac hamburgers. 21. The U.S. economy enters a period of rapid growth in incomes. This will cause A. Demand for McDonald's Big Mac hamburgers to shift to the left if they are inferior goods. 22. Economic efficiency is D. A market outcome in which the marginal benefit to consumers of the last unit produced is equal to its marginal cost of production, and in which the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus is at a maximum. 23. On the diagram to the right, a movement from A to C represents a B, change in quantity demanded. 24. What does increasing marginal opportunity cost mean? B. Increasing the production of a good requires larger and larger decreases in the production of another good. 25. What are the implications of this idea for the shape and production possibilities frontier? C. The production possibilities frontier will be bowed outward. 26. Prices of California Merlot wine, assume this is normal good, have risen steadily over the years. Answer D. The demand curve for Merlot has shifted to the right more than the supply curve has shifted to the right. 27. What approach to analyzing demand curves is Becker describing? A. A ceteris paribus condition. I don't know what the fuck that means. 28. As an economist, how can you hope for your analysis of the demand for butter is accurate if you neglect thousands and thousands of other variables? Answer C. In the model of demand and supply, we focus only on the variables that experience has shown are the most important in determining the demand for a product, income, price substitutes and complements, taste for the good, population, and expected future price. Fuck, that was a long answer. 29. Refer to the graph. After rent controls imposed, area A represents D. To produce a surplus transferred from landlords to renters. 30. From the list below, select the variable that will cause the demand curve to shift. C. Consumer income. 31. Mr. Peabody chooses to invest in companies that produce goods and services based on consumer preferences. Mr. Peabody is investing in companies that are attempting to be D. Allocatively efficient. All right. Back again with Unit 2 answers. Yeah, go ahead and start off with number 1. Economic costs of production differ from accounting costs in that D. Economic costs add the opportunity cost of a firm using its own resources while accounting costs do not. 2. The supply of zinc would become more elastic if C. The time horizon becomes longer. 3. A Pigovian tax is D. A tax to bring about an efficient level of output in the presence of externalities. 4. At what level must the Pigovian tax be set to achieve efficiency? A Pigovian tax must be set equal to D. The marginal social cost of production. 6. Anchoring is relating a value to some other unknown value, B, even if the second value is irrelevant. 7. A firm can use anchoring to influence consumer choices so as to increase sales by marketing A high regular price on a product which makes a discontinued sale price appear to be a bargain. 8. Which of the following is true of the relationship between the average product of labor and the marginal product of labor? D. Whenever the marginal product of labor is greater than the average product of labor, the average product of labor must be increasing. 9. When the price of a product changes, B. It changes the relative price of the product, causing a substitution effect, and at the same time it changes the purchasing power of the buyer, causing an income effect as well. 10. Latoya is buying corn chips and soda. She has 4 bags of corn chips and 5 bottles of soda in her shopping cart. Fat bitch. The answer is C. This cannot be determined because we do not know the price of the corn chips and soda and whether or not she fully spent her budget allocated on corn chips and soda. 11. Suppose that you are a big fan of Harry Potter books. All of the following are correct except B. You are making a rational choice since the opportunity cost of the book is $5,000. 12. When the quantity demanded is completely unresponsive to price, what is the value of price elasticity of demand? 0. If demand is perfectly elastic, then what is the effect of an increase in price? C. A decrease in quantity demanded to 0. 14. The Coase theorem states that D. If transaction costs are low, private bargaining will result in an efficient solution to the problem of externalities. 15. The parties involved in an externality have an incentive to reach an efficient solution because C. Both parties become better off when an efficient solution is reached. 16. The policy that Maybell endorses is B. Not economically efficient because at some point the additional benefit from reducing drug use would be less than the additional cost. 17. Refer to figure 11/7 dash. When output level is 100, what is the total cost of production? A. $800. 18. What is the formula for price elasticity of demand? C. The percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. 19. Why isn't elasticity just measured by the slope of the demand curve? A. The measurement of slope is sensitive to the units chosen for quantity and price. 20. If they are both consuming optimally, can we conclude that their marginal rate of substitution between milk and donuts is the same? This is talking about that one question where they're comparing donut. I remember this one. C, no. 21. What do you think of Jill's reasoning? D. Jill is incorrectly ignoring the opportunity cost of the building she owns. That's the one where she was debating on selling her pizza place and buying one in the city and that bullshit. 22. What is an externality? D. A benefit or cost that affects someone who is not directly involved in the production or consumption of a good or service. 23. Which of the following is an example of a good or service having the effects of a positive externality? Both A and B. Medical research and education. 24. Which of the following is an example of a good or service having the effects of a negative externality? A. Cigarette smoking. 25. All of the following statements regarding the individual's demand curve for pizza are true except that B. At each point on the demand curve, marginal utility from the consumption of pizza equals marginal utility from the consumption of Coke. 26. When the price of pizza falls along the demand curve for pizza, C. The consumer adjusts the consumption of both pizza and Coke following the rule of equal marginal utility per dollar. 27. The price elasticity of supply of teenage labor services is approximately 1.36. Suppose the minimum wage rises from 7.25 per hour to 6.75. Using the midpoint formula, D, 14.4%. 28. The relationship between Stan's outputs and the maximum output his firm can produce is called his D. Short-run production function. 29. If the cross-price elasticity of demand for computers and software is negative, this means the two goods are D. Complements. Which of the following is likely to be one of the most important fixed costs for an airline? C. The cost of its planes. 31. Airlines are likely to have particularly high costs relative to their variable costs compared with an old Navy. Okay, where the fuck is the answer to that one? Okay, that doesn't even come with an answer. Compared with an old Navy clothing store or a Panera Bread restaurant. 32. In a recession, sales of a good with C. An income elasticity of demand greater than 1 will decline the most, and sales of a good with an income elasticity of demand less than 0 will increase the most. 33. What is the marginal rate of technical substitution of labor for capital when labor is increased from 10 to 20 hours? A. 14 units of capital per worker. 34. Suppose the demand for a product decreases. What will the effect on the market equilibrium price and quantity if supply is infinitely elastic? Answer A. The equilibrium price will not change and the equilibrium quantity will decrease. 35. The long run refers to a time period. Answer D. Long enough for a firm to vary all of its inputs to adopt new technology and change the size of its physical plant. 36. Refer to figure 5-3. In the absence of any government intervention, the private market, answer D, underproduces by QNN minus QM units. 37. Is Lampert's remark referring to Sears' economic short run or its economic long run? Answer B, long run, because it's changing the size of stores takes a significant amount of time. 38. A good that is rival and excludable is a, answer C, private good. Refer to figure 10-5. What is the marginal rate of substitution for 1 bar of chocolate between G and H? Answer D, 3 cookies. 40. If the reduction of sulfur dioxide is increased from 7 million to 8.5 million tons, the total benefit of this change is equal to, and the total cost of this change is equal to, answer C, 375 million, 255 million. 41. What should Rob do? Answer B. He should weigh the marginal cost of moving into the shade, a less desirable view, versus the marginal benefit of being under the shade. This is talking about the one with the baseball. Shit. 42. Which of the following explains why marginal cost curve has a U-shape? Answer D. Initially, the marginal product of labor rises, then falls. From 1950 to 2022, wheat production in the United States increased dramatically, resulting in a substantial decline in wheat prices. Two key factors explaining this decline in prices are that the demand for wheat is, and the income elasticity of demand for wheat is, answer B, price inelastic, low. 44. According to McCarran, what problem would a carbon tax solve? Answer C. It would give firms the freedom and financial incentive to use the least costly means to reduce carbon emissions. 45. How would carbon tax allow market forces to drive solutions? Answer C. Firms would have an incentive to develop methods of reducing emissions that would enable them to avoid the tax. 46. When a positive technological change occurs, answer C, either A or B. 47. What is the difference between the average cost of production ATC and the marginal cost of production MC? Answer D. ATC equals TC / Q, and MC equals triangle TC slash triangle Q. Remember, that's a formula one. 48. What are the key determinants of price elasticity of demand for a product? Answer D. Availability of close substitutes, passage of time, necessities versus luxuries, definition of the market, and share of the good in the consumer's budget. 49. Which determinant is most important? Answer B. The availability of close substitutes. 50. Which of the above are assumptions behind the Coase theorem? Answer B, A, B, and D. Okay, that was Unit 2. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and read towards the end of the review she put out, just for those chapters that came after the second midterm that are not on these midterms. So yeah. Okay, going to go ahead and read out some extras here. Keyword law of demand. A rule states that holding everything else constant, when the price of a product falls, the quantity demanded of the product will increase, and when the price of a product rises, the quantity demanded of the product will decrease. Keyword equilibrium. Market equilibrium is a situation in which quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. Keyword consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is the difference between the highest price a consumer is willing to pay for a good or service and the actual price the consumer pays. Keyword producer surplus. Producer surplus is the difference between the lowest price a firm would be willing to accept for a good or service and the price it actually receives. Shifts. Okay, hold on. The effect of a tax. No, my bad. Keyword price ceiling. A legally determined maximum price that sellers may charge, and it will always be below the market equilibrium. An example of price ceiling is rent control. Keyword price floor. A legally determined minimum price that sellers may receive. This will always be above the market equilibrium. Example: minimum wage or agricultural price controls. Keyword network externalities. Network externalities refer to the phenomenon where the value of a product or service to a consumer increases as the number of other users of that same product or service also increases, essentially meaning the more people use something, the more valuable it becomes for each individual user, often also called a network effect. Keyword anchoring. Anchoring is a cognitive bias that describes how people rely on an initial piece of information or anchor when making decisions. Keyword endowment effect. The endowment effect is the tendency of people to be unwilling to sell a good they already own if they are offered a price that is greater than the price they would be willing to pay to buy the good if they did not already own it. Keyword long run. In long run, the firm can vary all of its inputs, adopt new technology, and increase or decrease the size of its physical plant. Implicit costs versus explicit costs. Recall that economists like to consider all of the opportunity costs of an activity, both of the explicit costs and the implicit costs. An explicit cost is a cost that involves spending money, and an implicit cost is a non-monetary opportunity cost. The explicit costs, also called accounting costs, of running a firm are easily fixable. Relatively easy to identify. Just look at what the firm spends money on. The implicit costs are a little harder. Finding them involves identifying the resources used in the firm that could have been used for another beneficial purpose. Example: if you own a firm, you probably spend time working on the firm's activities, even if you don't pay yourself explicitly for that time. It is still an opportunity cost. Keyword law of diminishing returns is the principle that at some point adding more of a variable input such as labor to the same amount of a fixed input such as capital will cause the marginal product of the variable input to decline. MC equals MR, always. MC is the firm's supply curve. ABC is a shutdown point. When MPO goes down, marginal cost is going up. Keyword externality. An externality is a benefit or cost experienced by someone who is not a producer or consumer of a good or service. Think of an externality as a side effect. Keyword Pigovian tax. A tax to bring about an efficient level of output in the presence of externalities by aligning private costs with social costs. Keyword elasticity of demand. We already went over some of these, but it's a good refresher. Price elasticity of demand equals percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. Keyword perfectly competitive markets. There are many buyers and sellers. All firms sell identical products and there are no barriers to new firms entering the market. Price takers. Buyers or sellers that are unable to affect the market price. Keyword monopolistically competitive markets. There are many buyers and sellers. All firms sell similar but differentiated products, and there are no barriers to new firms entering the market. Price takers are buyers or sellers that are unable to affect the market price. Keyword oligopoly is a market structure consisting of a few firms that are the main sellers of a good or service for which there is no close substitute. Keyword price match. Higher prices give the seller choice to control both of them like a prisoner's dilemma. Keyword monopoly. And a monopoly is a market structure consisting of one firm that is the only seller of a good or service for which there is no close substitute. Price maker but still considers demand. A monopoly can come from 1. Government restrictions on entry, 2. Control a key resource, 3. Network externalities, and 4. Natural monopoly, large economies of scale. And that's it. We're gonna fucking pass Danny Cassano. We're gonna get a fucking A, nigga. Let's go.